precisely what your study materials suggest that you do. That in each case, as you begin handling the case, that you begin with, on a piece of paper, drawing a line down the middle and on the top a line across. These facts will be favorable to the prosecution. I'm using a Greek letter P for prosecution or plaintiff. And on this side, we're going to put facts that are favorable for the defense. So here I'll write plaintiff. And here we'll write defendant. So a Greek letter P, a Greek letter D. So in the fire truck case that we just read through, let's try and put those facts in order. We read again that assume that you're an attorney in a mock trial representing a plaintiff who was injured in an automobile accident. Your client knows only that when traffic slowed to allow a fire truck to pass, her car was hit from behind. So here's a fact that's favorable for the plaintiff. That is that traffic slowed. It slowed down for the fire truck. Then further, we infer from that fact that the defendant did not pull over. So, moving on, we have the fact, this is again on page 283, assume that your case file shows that at 8:20 in the morning, the defendant was driving south on Craycroft Road on his way to work downtown. Rush hour was in full swing and he had an important meeting that was to begin at 8:30 a.m. sharp. So we then have a fact here, this is also favorable for the prosecution, that the plaintiff was hit from behind. There is a fact that's favorable for the defendant in that sentence, and that is that rush hour was in full swing. It was very busy. There was much traffic. I don't think there was as much traffic as I've seen on the streets of Kyiv, but there was a lot of traffic. We also learned that after the defendant parked his car near work, the defendant would have to walk 2 more blocks to get to his office. So we have defendant was hit at 8:20 in the morning, and we have the fact that the defendant, this is favorable for the prosecution. This is, in other words, these are the black cards, these are the red cards. So here's black, and these are the red cards up here. We have the fact that the defendant had an appointment or a meeting at 8:30 in the morning. We also have the fact favorable to the prosecution that the defendant parked his car 2 blocks away. 2 blocks is probably a half a kilometer, 1/2 of 1 kilometer away. From the point at which the accident occurred, it would likely take the defendant another 20 to 35 minutes to park his car, walk to his office, and get to his appointment. So that's another fact favorable for the prosecution or for the plaintiff, is that it would take, or that it takes 20 to 35 minutes for the defendant to go the 2 blocks in a period of 10 minutes. We also have the fact that following the collision, the defendant used a cellular phone to call his office. So that's a fact favorable to the prosecution. The defendant called his office. Why is that favorable? It shows that the defendant was more concerned about his appointment than perhaps he was about the accident itself. Now we have other facts under this scenario that are favorable to the defendant. We, of course, have the fact that rush hour was in full swing. We have this fact. The plaintiff did not pull over. The fire truck came by, all of the cars pulled over, except the plaintiff stopped in the middle of the street. That's favorable to the defendant. Here's another fact favorable to the defendant. The plaintiff is certain that the fire truck did not sound its siren. So let's put no siren. So in other words, the fire truck came up from behind, but the facts show that there was no siren. So how could the defendant be properly warned that the fire truck was coming? And finally, another favorable fact or set of facts for the defendant is that the plaintiff went camping and slept on the ground for 4 days. So perhaps that would indicate that the plaintiff was not aware, was not fully awake, was perhaps tired, distracted, and that could have contributed to the accident. So again, the first step is to put your facts on a grid to separate them out, to separate out the red cards from the black cards.